One question that I've come across in filling out applications and talking to recruiters is the question of what kind of company would you like to work for? Or describe your ideal work situation. Um, and it's always kind of taken me aback because I'm just focusing on getting a job. um, I'm not really in a position right now to pick and choose. If I ever get in a position where I have several offers on the table, which would be awesome, um, that will be the time to pick and choose. Uh, but still, it's a valid question, and it's made me think about things a little more. The past couple weeks, I've actually had a lot of leads. Uh, People messaging me on LinkedIn or internal recruiters or other recruiters reaching out to me. Um, Even some like technical screenings and such. And they've been from all sorts of different companies, from all sorts of places. Uh, like one of the first places was in Seattle, and it's a company you might have heard of. It's Amazon. Um, and that was actually the first time that I got excited about, not about the company or the location or anything like that, but about what I would actually be working on. Because it was going to be like helping to make an app for Alexa. And I actually went to a Alexa workshop like several months ago, like right after I started learning, I think. And I remember getting excited then, thinking that it was kind of right up my alley. I'm not very visual. I'm much more auditory. So I struggle with, in terms of user interface, making things look pretty. I usually get input from someone who's a little more visually inclined. But Alexa, I don't have to worry about that. I think um, they are having screens and like having more of a visual user interface on some of the Alexa products. But I got very excited about getting into programming Alexa someday. Um, but then, like the very next day, I got reached out to by another company on the opposite side of the U.S. in Virginia, and it was a company that deals with data analytics for its clients. And data analytics is another thing I thought I might be interested in doing. I've always loved looking at data and comparing it and seeing how it all fits together, kind of thing. But and it's a smaller kind of startup company and a very family oriented culture and promoting continued learning. So all of those things sounded great. And it was in a place like Arlington I've actually lived in before, so it's familiar. Familiarity is good. But then even here locally in Atlanta, like some smaller like software consulting firms, and they sound awesome too. I love the idea of working on different projects depending on what the client's needs are, and even different technologies, and learning new technologies, new challenges, having the flexibility of working different hours or even working remotely sometimes. That sounds appealing too. So, uh, and then even in Atlanta, there's the larger companies like Home Depot, Cox Automotive, Chick-fil-A, but then there's tons of little startups too that um, whenever I've gone to a hiring event at a startup, I get so excited because you're talking to the people you might be working with, and they are awesome people, and you can just feel the excitement and enthusiasm of being part of something growing that's going to be great, and I just get excited that I might be able to be a part of that too. And so and in this whole process, um, it's been very revealing about what my priorities actually are. So I've kind of like pieced together what I'm looking for in a company just based on what's appealed to me about these different opportunities. So one of my first ones is the opportunity to continue growing and learning. Um, and at this point, I don't see really a situation where I wouldn't continue learning. Anything I get right now is going to be a learning experience. Um, but I can see some situations as being more geared towards that than others, like companies that pay for you to take courses or go to conferences or um, even give you the opportunity to learn new technologies and to work in them instead of just sticking to what you already know. Uh, yeah, even though there's still a lot more for me to learn in React and Redux and JavaScript, but I am excited to learn new technologies as well. Okay, so continued learning. Um, Company culture is a huge thing, and that's kind of a buzzword. Like, what does that even mean? Um, Part of it means just kind of the attitude of the people you're working with. Um, I know there's like a very toxic attitude some atmospheres, working atmospheres, can have, which is you just show up, do the bare minimum to not get fired, basically, and spend the whole day complaining about things, and then go home. And I I've been in those situations before. That happens a lot, like in the service industry. Like when I was a bartender, the servers would just complain about the customers and drink a little on the side, and just like, ugh, you know. Well, I'd be juggling oranges for the customers and just be having a great time. um, but yeah, and it can be a little tough. Yeah, you can, if I did find myself in a situation like that, I have dealt with that before, and trying to basically improve things internally. Um, I don't really want that to have to be my focus, though. I don't. I want to focus on learning and coding and creating great things. I don't want to have to focus on trying to lift up a bunch of negativity and deal with the emotional drama kind of thing. So company culture in that sense is very important. The other thing is like the flexibility of I have a family, um, so I don't want to have to work more than 40 hours a week or like be on call overnight or anything like that. I also the it's very appealing. Another thing that's very appealing about the flexibility of hours is I know when I am most productive, how I can be most productive. Um, so I would love having an office to come into for meetings, to touch bases with people, to get the agenda, ask questions, get help, all that great stuff. But when it comes to actually focusing and getting stuff done, I want to be able to, like in college, I had all these different places that I like to study depending on what I would study. Sometimes I would go to the coffee shop or be doing my laundry or something, and it was okay if a friend stopped by and say, "Hey, how's it going, Martha?" Um, but sometimes I would go to the remotest corner of the library where no one would ever find me and just stay there and focus for hours. um, and and I really appreciate companies, teams that uh, are showing more trust in their employees. And with great trust comes great responsibility. um, so basically, treating their employees more like responsible adults, and trusting them to know and decide for themselves how to be the most productive, what atmosphere and what time does that happen. So yes, the flexibility is important. So what were those? The learning opportunities, the company culture, and the flexibility. Um, and of course, the last thing I'll say is just pay. I want to get paid. Don't even really have to mention that because, of course, uh, otherwise I just, if I was gonna just become a hobbyist, a hobby programmer, and just stay at home and continue to write my little games, that would, if I didn't want to get paid, then that's probably what I'd keep doing. Um, So yeah, what are the priorities? What are you looking for in a company? And and of course, as I experience more companies and more options, that those priorities become much more refined in terms of what companies have to offer, and even knowing myself better as a developer, what my needs are, and where my interests lie. But as I said, for my very first junior developer position, I'm not going to be too picky.